Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast, The Joyful Frugalista, and now here's your host, Serena Bird.
This podcast is brought to you by The Joyful Fashionista, an online marketplace for buying and selling second-hand and sustainable clothing. Make cash selling as you declutter or buy sustainable and fabulous fashion. Yuma Frugalistas, and welcome. Today I have a very special guest. In fact, all of my guests are special. But before I introduce her, I have a favour to ask, and that is if you love this podcast as much as I do recording, please like, follow, comment, and above all, tell your best friends so that they can enjoy the experience as well. For those on the path to financial independence, retiring in your 40s is often considered to be an ambitious goal. And in fact, for me, it was quite an ambitious goal. For extreme people on the financial independence retire early path, the goal is often the age of 30, while some people have managed to retire in their 20s. But my guest today achieved financial independence before she even graduated from high school. And rather than then sit on a couch or go on a schoolies for life bender, she has used her financial basics and her nows to go on and do some amazing things to help the planet. So my guest today is Ilea Buffier. Ilea is the founder of Evalue8 Sustainability, an enviro tech company with the mission of making it easy for all organisations to measure and reduce their carbon footprint. Ilea is a climate-active registered consultant and has been involved in the carbon accounting industry since 2005. She is also the owner of Ninetwofive Interiors, which is a dealer for Steelcase, the world's largest commercial furniture manufacturer. And if you're hearing a theme here about sustainability, you would be correct. Ilea is a fellow of the Australian Institute of Company Directors and serves on several not-for-profit and government boards. She's also a mentor for Mentor Walks and the Millhouse Ventures, which helps new Canberra businesses whose purpose is to make a positive environmental and social impact. And if that wasn't enough, she's recently won, or her company has, the Australian Enterprise Award for Best Carbon Accounting Solution 2022. Welcome, Ilea.
Thanks, Serena.
Well, I don't know where we start. There's just so many amazing things. So maybe let's just start at the beginning. High school.
Yes. I bought a couple of properties when I was 17. Well, I technically settled when I was 18, so I didn't need my parents to co-sign for me. But just, working in a part-time job and used the new first home buyers grant that came on and used that to purchase 2 properties and lived and renovated in one and rented out the other one.
Wow. And so you're at high school at the time? You're at high school here in Canberra where we're recording?
Yeah. I was at Dixon College and my then boyfriend, now husband, helped paint and I was tiling after school, and then my dad helped install a new kitchen and we renovated it, and then that went on to quadruple in value over a couple of years. So it allowed me to then buy 2 more properties, which also increased very nicely.
Very nicely indeed.
Yeah.
Did you like renovating? Did you have fun?
I did at the time, and I've done a little bit more since, but it's not something that I particularly want to spend too much time doing. I look back now at the bathroom that I tiled and it's not very smooth and pretty. But
the more you look at tiles, the more you see the ones that are crooked.
Yeah.
And what were your friends doing at high school? Presumably not everyone was buying and renovating properties, or were they?
No, but me and my best friend and my parents all sort of got into it around the same sort of time. So we were going to seminars and information sessions, and it was sort of had come out of kind of a property lull, and then it was booming at the time. So it was a really good time to get into property. Yeah, one of the property seminars I went to with my parents, there was 100 or so people in the room, and they said, everyone put up your hand if you've got an investment property, and I sort of put my hand up, and lots of other people did, and then it was like, and keep your hand up if you've refinanced it in the last 12 months, and then renovated it and improved the value, and then refinanced to leverage to buy more properties. And by the end of that, I was the only one left with my hand up as an 18-year-old in a room full of adults. So yeah, that was an interesting moment.
An interesting moment indeed. And I guess, people would have been surprised you had your hand up in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. And so what was the process like as a young adult? 17, you're looking at properties, you're not yet legally able to drink or to do a number of things really in Australia, but yet you can buy a property.
Yeah, yep. I didn't know what I didn't know back then, I suppose. I just went around doing what I wanted to do. I did have plans at the time to move to Melbourne and start an environmental consultancy. My dad had just won a UN Sustainability Award for a greywater recycling project down in Melbourne. And then I sort of realised that maybe that wasn't the best idea with no experience or education to go and have people take me seriously at that level. But yeah, the bank manager, he was still my bank manager. He just retired and he gave me my first loan back then when I was 17. So.
And did you have to have any additional steps to get the loan? Were your parents guarantor?
No, they were willing to step in if needed, but it all worked out. The value of the property was increasing at such a rate that even the difference between exchange and settlement, they'd already doubled in value and quadrupled in value. Yeah, very short time after that. And
did you have an income at that time? Were you working part-time?
I moved out of home when I was 15 and was on youth allowance, and that counted as income as well, and I got rent assistance because I was financially independent from my parents at that stage. And then I had a part-time job that I was able to save a bit of money from as well. And so that was, my own income.
Moving out of home at 15.
Yeah, I've always been very independent. I tried to move out of home when I was 3 into a yurt in the backyard, but
what did your parents think of that?
They were standing outside in the dark waiting for me to come back in, but I was fast asleep. And
oh, it's just amazing. And so why property? Why property over shares or anything else?
I think it's great to have that kind of stable, something that you can impact. You can renovate and increase the value. It's not external. Yeah, it was just something that my parents were sort of getting involved in as well at the time. So it's more in your control.
So your parents were still involved even though you were living out by yourself at age 15?
Yeah. We lived next door to each other, so I was next door.
So not too far away.
No, I could still go back for dinner when I needed to.
Now, we were talking before about your best friend. So your best friend liked property as well, is that right?
Yeah, so we started a little business out of high school called I Dream, which was Ilea and Danielle's real estate analysis Make It Happen.
Oh, I love the name.
And we used to do investment property analysis based on a software program that inputted people's financial data and looked at how investment properties would impact their tax situation.
Do you still run I Dream?
No, it lasted a year or so, and then I bought my next business, 9Tofive Interiors, which was then called Camper Contract Furniture.
So let's talk about your first business now. So at this stage, you're what, age 19?
Yeah, 19.
So you didn't go to university, straight from high school, financially independent already?
Yeah, and I wanted to learn about business. I always knew that I wanted to use business as a tool to address climate change. And I'd been reading a whole lot of books like Natural Capitalism, Cradle to Cradle, A Business Guide to Sustainability. And so that was what my ultimate goal is, but I thought I'd better learn about business first. So then I was looking at businesses to buy. And this one came up, which was a dealer for Steelcase, and they were the largest commercial furniture manufacturer in the world and founding members of the Green Building Council of America, and also had the first ever cradle-to-cradle product certified as the Think Chair. And so being able to be involved in a business like that was, everything I wanted, really.
So you're a 19-year-old who's done extensive research about sustainability.
Yep. I wasn't reading, teen magazines. I was reading business books and financial planning, money magazines on the beach.
Love a good money magazine.
Yeah.
Was it scary buying your first company at age 19?
Yeah. It was, once again, possibly stupid because I didn't even know that the commercial furniture market existed when I bought the business. But luckily the old owner that I bought it off stayed on to train me. So he stayed for 3 months and sort of, got me up to speed, and the existing staff that I had, some of which were, over twice my age, showed me what to do and helped me learn the ropes. So that was really great.
Were they accepting of you as a 19-year-old female owner?
Yeah, I got a lot of questions from clients and things of like, do you mind if I ask how old you are? And then I won a Telstra award the next year when I was just turned 21. And so that was widely available to figure out how old I was.
And so what was the experience like? Like, was it a good financial decision that you made, or did you have to do some work to turn things around?
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was obviously a lot of hard work. There was ups and downs and times where we weren't making money, but then we knew there was the prospect of making money. So, the ultimate plan was to set it up to be able to run by itself and step back. And that took a lot longer than I had originally planned. And it was spurred on then by the birth of my twins. So I had a deadline that I needed to get it running by itself. So that definitely made things a bit easier then. And then got all the systems and processes in place to be able to have it, run well under management.
Did you manage to achieve all that before the twins came?
Kind of. I was interviewing new staff from hospital, but that's another story.
Do you still have that company?
Yes. I've got a wonderful co-owner now, Rodney, and he runs it. Yeah, I only have to put in a few hours a week.
Only a few hours a week. This is like the 4-hour dream, right?
Yeah. Read that book too. That's a good one.
Fabulous. Well, I do want to ask you about your new businesses, but since you mentioned your twins, how old are your twins now?
They're 10. And
so what was it like as a mum of 2 10-year-olds? So they're both girls, I believe?
Yeah, identical girls.
Identical girls. Suddenly that must have been big changes to your life, big changes to your frugal investing business journey?
Yeah. I was quite sick at the time. I got bacteremia and was in and out of hospital for 6 months. So That was a tough period. So, twins, and luckily my husband was there to be very supportive. Yeah, everything kind of just had to get put on hold for a while. But then I think when they were 2 or 3, I joined my first board, became a non-executive director, which was exciting.
She says calmly. You've just done so many amazing things, Ilea. It's just amazing to listen to you. But I just want to talk a little bit about your family life for a little bit. What kind of money values do you instill in your children? Do you tell them to go to university and invest in their future, or how do you talk about money? What are the sorts of values?
I suppose just starting with what makes them happy and knowing that money is a tool and that they don't need to work for money, that they can get that in a lot of different ways. Doing what makes them happy is probably the most important thing. Yeah, I think it was when I had 7 jobs at one point with the boards and other businesses, and I was sort of going to meetings and had to be away from them at times, and there was one time when they were about 6 where my husband said he needed to go to a meeting, and they're like, "Oh, I thought only women went to meetings." So I was a bit proud of that they instilled those sort of, that I'm doing what I'm passionate about. I'm not doing it for the money. So, yeah.
And is your husband involved in your businesses, or he has completely separate things?
No, he's in government. So it's nice to have a diverse, he's sort of at the moment acting general manager of climate change policy in Australia, which is a big job.
Wow. Big climate change, sustainability family there.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. And do you teach your girls to save and invest?
Yeah, so we have, pocket money for their regular chores, but then they can also earn money through, hanging out the washing and folding washing and some other bits and pieces. And so they do that out of their own choice if they choose to make that money or not. And then we definitely try and instill that they don't have to spend it, that we've got bank accounts for them and they save that and then look for experiences even instead of things that they want to purchase.
And do they take to that message?
Yeah, yep. They save up for, horse riding and bits and pieces. But
so you don't just splurge for horse riding?
Sometimes, but it's a bit of compromise given we contribute and they contribute.
So you sort of co-contribute?
Yeah.
And do it that way. Now, I must say that I was quite impressed that the first time we spoke, you said that your daughters are taking up coding.
Yeah, they've both done a lot of coding, and one of them's then run with it even after the code camp courses that they did in the holidays. And she's done a whole online adults course that she's working through, and soon we'll get her coming into Evalue8 and working here.
So you will be employing your 10-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
Slave labour.
I know. I'm wondering how I deal with that legally, but sure I can work something out. Bribery.
Well, actually, I used to work for my mum when I was about that age too, and I think it was really great. I loved having my own money, but it is difficult to navigate too in terms of the legalities of having someone on the payroll.
Yeah. But she's more advanced than some of the interns we've had in, so it's amazing what she can do already.
Oh, she obviously must love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's fabulous. And so let's talk about your new business now, Evalue8. So what does it do?
It automates carbon accounting. So our goal is to transform organisations for a zero carbon future, and we want to make it easy. We believe that measurement is the first step to managing anything. So managing climate change is crucially important, and we want to sort of build trust between carbon data that gets put out there. There's a lot of greenwashing and people inflating their carbon claims and environmental credentials. And so if we can make the accounting of it standardised and easy, then everyone can participate, which then affects the whole supply chain of being able to show if you've got proper low carbon products and services that then consumers can choose.
That makes it all sound so easy, but why hasn't there been standard accounting on carbon counting to date?
There's been a lot of development. There was about 5 accounting standards, carbon accounting standards and frameworks up until last year. And then in June last year, a lot of them merged together and formed the Value Reporting Foundation. And then in October last year, they all formed with another couple of bodies to form the International Sustainability Standards Board, which now sits under IFRS, which is the International Financial Reporting Standards Board. So it's now as standard as carbon accounting. It's put in that same parcel, and the process is happening really rapidly to make carbon accounting standardised, which, yeah, it's been a long journey, but it's just sped up rapidly in the last couple of years.
Well, you're obviously very much across that process. Are you part of the process as well?
Yeah, I sit on the Australian Institute of Company Directors National Reporting Committee and the Business Leaders Reporting Forum. And so we have close involvement with the International Sustainability Standards Board and also the Australian Accounting Standards Board and ASIC to look at business reporting and the requirements there and how to improve them and standardise them.
Why is it important to put a dollar cost on carbon and actually on climate change for that reason as well?
I think that unless you value something, then you're not going to pay attention to it. So even if you don't offset your emissions and purchase carbon credits, having that internal values that you can then apply lets you make those decisions with that in mind. So the ACT government's a great example, which they've set an internal price on carbon, which they call a social cost on carbon, $50 a tonne. And then they use that money to then reinvest in projects that help them reduce their emissions. So it's not necessarily buying offsets, though their goal is to get to net zero or absolute zero. But then, yeah, having that value is the only way you can really incorporate that into your decision making.
So what about for small businesses who want to do the right thing? Is this a really expensive thing, getting carbon accounting? Like, how can people be responsible?
Yeah, it used to be. So back in 2005, when my furniture business got our first carbon accounting footprint, we spent thousands in consultants and months of data collection and pulling out invoices and putting them in Excel spreadsheets. And it was a very painful process. And then you get a report back and then you've used up all your energy getting the accounts, and then you don't focus on the reductions that you could be achieving. And that's still happening today with carbon consultants spending 6 months and charging $20,000 for a small business, which is not affordable.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
we make it $100 a month, and we can get you carbon neutral in a day.
So $100 a month, and you can get carbon neutral in
a day. Yeah,
a day.
So, but then obviously our focus is on the reductions after that. So we want to have the carbon accounting as the standard, then allowing you the time to be able to then focus on the reductions and map your progress over time and be able to demonstrate that to stakeholders and your customers.
So your service, does that result in cost cutting as well, or is it more expensive?
Yeah, definitely. So it's carbon is cutting costs, really. If you can save energy and save number of square meters of office space or anything like that, then you're saving costs in every step of the way.
Wow, that seems quite amazing that you can do that. And it makes sense really too, because if you're being efficient, you're not wasting.
Yeah, exactly. And also the benefits in terms of reputation and consumers' choice. Companies have increased profit by 13% by looking holistically at their environmental footprint and reducing where possible.
Fantastic. And are consumers calling for this, even though that might not be government mandated? Are consumers calling for this sort of information?
Yeah, everywhere. Yeah, all levels of the supply chain. Even someone like a big company like Woolworths are looking at every element in their supply chain and getting their suppliers to report to them, so that then they can then help consumers be able to compare which is the least carbon intensive bottle of tomato paste on the shelf kind of thing.
Well, this is an important consideration too, because a lot of products are imported from overseas and often they are cheaper by virtue of the exchange rate, but they're not cheaper in terms of carbon.
Yeah. And then when you start to put that in for the local food options, then it really plays out and has a big impact.
So I have to ask now, do you have a Frugalistic tip? And I have a feeling you have more than one.
Yeah, but my biggest tip is buy once and buy well. Like, be really conscious as a consumer, because you have power, money is power, and your consumer choices are really important. So I think that applies to buying good quality, buying environmentally responsible products, and choosing whether you want to buy it in the first place.
Do you do a lot of research before you make your own purchases?
I do way too much research, and sometimes that can be really debilitating. Like if I want to go on a holiday or buy some clothes and stuff, then I have to look at every option first and then choose which. So I'm sort of a recovering perfectionist in that regard, and I need to get better at just trying to make a reasonable decision.
But this is quite a problem. Like, I know we've had COVID, so not many people have been on airplanes, but it's starting to happen. Like, how do you reconcile the fact that you want to take your family on a holiday, for instance, with climate change? Yeah,
it's a tough one. And I think that everyone has to make their own choices of what they're sort of willing to accept. And I do believe in offsetting. Like, I think that if you are paying the extra to reduce your emissions, then that is a ton of carbon reduced somewhere else. So we definitely offset all our flights. And then it's just a matter of, reducing them. And a lot of our holidays are hiking and running and camping and those kind of things. So it's low carbon in other areas, but sometimes we still do have to fly.
It sounds very wholesome.
We try.
Do you do a lot of those activities in the Canberra area where we are recording from?
Yeah, yep. I run with Canberra runners and hill seekers and a few other groups around town, and running a marathon on the weekend. And
you're running a marathon this weekend?
Yeah, and an ultra marathon in the Blue Mountains next month.
Wow. So how many boards you're on and your companies, and you're running an ultra marathon next month and a marathon this weekend. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's my present to myself is to have that sort of time in nature on my own or with a small group, and being out there, giving time for myself.
Wow, it sounds like you're really doing that very well.
Do my best.
And any other tips?
I suppose just being a minimalist, and I sort of count myself as an anti-consumerist. So not buying because you think you need it. So just trying to live simply and those kind of things I think is really important. And in a practical sense, collect frequent flyer points because they're great. Not from flying, but from spending money.
So how do you collect your frequent flyer points?
Just on credit cards and looking out for, reward bonuses and things like that with purchases. I changed, health insurance this year and got 80,000 frequent flyer points from that, and just keep looking for opportunities to collect them and get new credit cards that give you, another 80,000 frequent flyer points or 120 or so.
I'm assuming you're the sort of person who pays off your credit card in full?
Yes, definitely. Paid it off every month, but then collect all the points along the way.
And do you find that your spending blows out with use of credit cards, or it's containable?
No, not at all. I'm very conscious of what I spend and stick to the budget and know where all my money is going, and really try and be conscious about if I want to spend up to, my budget limit and where I set those limits. So I don't spend beyond that.
And how many points do you collect on frequent flyers?
Oh, hundreds of thousands. But it's only 140,000 Qantas frequent flyer points for a round the world ticket, and that's the best use of value for spending them. So it's 40 points per dollar versus 250 points per dollar in the value.
So your sharp mathematical mind that develops software, products and so forth has been used for analysing frequent flyer points.
Definitely. And it takes a little bit of navigating to be able to get the right flights on the days that you want, and you have to be very well organised, like a year out, so that you get the flights in peak periods. But yeah, it pays off, that's for sure.
Most certainly does. Well, where can people reach you and find more about your companies, especially Evalue8?
Yeah, you can find me at LinkedIn, at Ilea Buffier at LinkedIn, or something like that. and Evalue8.net, which is EVALUE and the number 8.net.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being my guest today. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please join the Joyful Frugalista Facebook group, hang out and join the conversation. Thank you.
Thanks, Serena.
You've been listening to The Joyful Frugalista with Serena Bird. And of course, sound has been by Neil Hadley.
You could talk, and I would listen, I would understand your mind. Oh, I long to be with you, walking toward the sea, and the times when I'm lonely, you could be the one to comfort me every day. I am thankful that our separate paths have crossed every night.